It's January, the third Thursday of the month, which means it's Agile Richmond time. It is really great to see your faces. Thank you all for making time in all of this to join us. And it wouldn't be 2021 and working from a global pandemic from home if you didn't have dogs barking outside my office and wonderful noises that we have to contend with. This has become our new normal for a while, for better or for worse. And we took our time to adjust to what this meant for us and recognize that one of the things that we needed, and hopefully you do too, is our community back. So we are glad that you were able to make time to join us again. And we are happy to be here in service of you. Charlie says hi. He's the loud one. So what I want to do real quickly before we get started, just a couple quick things. This is our January monthly meeting. We're going to do a quick intro, welcome. Just a couple of notes. What we're also going to say is we're going to do a quick icebreaker, just to remind us that we're all still here. We have stuff to do. So we're going to do an icebreaker as well. For now, we're all starting muted. Once we get to the point of the icebreaker, there'll be a moment opportunity to open up your microphones again for people to actually offer some things for our icebreaker. But if you're not speaking and we're not in the icebreaker, do take some time to go ahead and mute your line. As you can tell, as all the things are going on around us, it can make it hard for everyone to hear from our wonderful speakers. Thank you, Mr. Pushinsky. It's great to see you. So with that said, just a couple of quick things. First one is we're not alone. This has been a great community, and we are fantastically well gifted with some fantastic organizations doing things in our community. Yes, third Thursdays are Agile Richmond. We are getting back in swing. We already have meetings lined up for tonight, February, March, and April. Those will be opening up. RSVPs for February open up tonight. Our longtime friend Mike Bizos will be speaking. And then we'll have Chris Lee in March up from Northern Virginia and Spark Plug Agility. And then in April, we're actually getting Ken Pugh from down in Durham to come and speak to us as well about BDD. So I've got a year that we're starting to line up pretty quickly. We're pretty excited about that. On top of that, Scrum RVA is meeting Tuesday of next week. They're doing a lean coffee around impediments and challenges facing your team in 2021. Our good friend Megan, hi Megan, and Agile 757. Betsy's going to be talking about team launch next Thursday, a week from today. And then the week after that, where'd my stuff go? A week after that, while I go ahead and get my browser back and get a week from that on the 3rd, our good friends at Capital Kanban are going to be actually having Daniel Vicanti come and do a fireside chat. Those are all going to be great events, and I'm super excited to see every last one of those. So, as with all things virtual, after our brief hiccup, we'll come back to making sure things are shared. Thanks. If there are other events that we don't know about, feel free to drop them into the chat. Send us an email, let us know so we can get them added to our list. As you guys probably seen, we've started sending out a newsletter again, which is awesome. We'd love to get your event put into our newsletter as well if you give us enough lead time. Right now, we're trying to do that monthly, and we'd love to make sure that not only do you hear about the things that we're doing, but the things that are going on in the whole Agile community. So the other thing we want to make sure we take the time to talk about is our sponsors. We wouldn't be here without some sponsors who, in the middle of a global pandemic and the world economy going upside down, were able to stick with us. And that's awesome. We've been trying to figure out what that means in the world of there wasn't an Innovate 2020 and how we continue to offer opportunities for our sponsors to show that they support their Agile community, show that they support us as an organization and all of our folks we work with, and thank them. And this is just one of the many ways. So if you'd like to be a sponsor, we'd love to have you. Of course, well, that means you'll have to be a sponsor of Innovate 2021. And we were actually literally talking about that earlier this evening around ways we continue to do more things like Innovate. but also monthly meetings, but also in the times when we can all get back together, doing things like sponsoring food and having places for us to meet. If there are ways you'd like to be able to sponsor our organization, let me know. We'd love to have you join the list of folks who've been able to sponsor us and continue to sponsor us. Thank you to everyone who sponsors in the past, who sponsors currently, and sponsors us in the future. That being said, let's talk about an icebreaker, right? I think we've all done tribes before. This is virtual tribes. Hopefully everybody is comfortable enough with Zoom. This is your quick Zoom quiz to make sure how you can actually react to things in Zoom. You can do thumbs ups, you can do smiles, you can do hearts. I want to check real quickly, make sure everybody can actually do a thumbs up in Zoom. On your Zoom client, there you go, Mr. Pushinsky, there we go, thumbs ups all around. Thumbs ups, thumbs ups, thumbs up. Got Ruben, Mark, Mia. Make sure you guys, yep, okay. So here's what I can do for tribes. I'm going to ask a couple, maybe 3 to get the creative juices flowing. And we don't have a circle to step into and step out of. What we have is a way to thumbs up or not. So I'm going to go ahead and like you would with a tribe. If you haven't done tribes before, I will start with a statement. And if you are part of my tribe that agrees with that statement, stick your thumb up. And we're going to find our tribe who all have something in common. Thank you, Gil. I know you're part of my tribe in general. You need to shave your head. We'll work on that. And if you're not, don't raise your thumb up and we'll reset every round. This is just a quick way for us to find the things we have in common and things we can start coming together about when we're all so socially distant. We can't actually be together. So when we all have ourselves in our homes and we haven't seen each other far too long, what are the things that still keep us connected? Jennifer, you've got your hand up. I want to check real quickly, make sure you don't have a question before I move forward, or that you just forgot to put your hand down. Hey, Jennifer.
Hey, no question. I was just, okay. I'm on my Zoom on my phone, so I don't know that I have the hand or the thumbs up or thumbs down.
Hands up works just fine too.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's do our first tribe. This one's an easy one. I want to see everybody in my tribe where blue is my favorite color. Jim, Guy, Jason, Gil, yep, Mark, there's my blues. Blue is my favorite color. All right, go ahead and reset. We'll do another one that's a little easy. Another one's a little easy. Ready? I want to see everybody in my tribe who is 100% sure Aaron Rodgers is winning himself a Super Bowl this year. Come on, Aaron Rodgers winning the Super Bowl. Come on, Robin, there you go. Yeah, he's will show old man Tom Brady one thing or two. And I may get divorced over saying that too loudly because my wife's a Boston girl. That's right. All right, not many of us being bold there. All right, that's okay. So here's go ahead and reset. Here's one that's a little more close to home. I want to see everybody in my tribe who's having a really hard time sleeping through the night. Yeah, it's been tough. Now, part of this is because I'm getting old. And as the commercial says, it's not a growing problem, it's a going problem. But some of this is, there's a lot of stress. And it's been tough. I've been having a hard time sleeping. And I can see you guys have been too. Thank you for sharing. Here's the last one I'll ask you guys before I open the floor and let you guys ask your own. I want to see all the tribe. I'm not going to raise my hand for this one. This is a tribe I'm going to step out of, but put in the middle and let you guys react to. I want to see my tribe of people who can't wait to get back to their office. This is something that I found really interesting. I'm working with a rather large client right now up in the greater DC area. People are not ready to go back to their office, go back to the office yet. And there's lots of reasons why. But I think there's a lot of things too around the connectivity and the connections we want to have that getting back to the office can give us. That takes a lot of intentionality to recreate. So thank you for sharing. Now here's the time for you guys to feel free to unmute yourselves, either en masse or one at a time. If there is somebody who wants to find a tribe, tell me what you want your tribe to be. Go look for us. Come out and say, hey, where's my tribe of people who...
All right, I got one, Brad.
Go, Mark, what you got?
It's apropos of the talk tonight, and it'll give me good context. I want to see the tribe of people who are UFC fans.
Oh, good one. There we go. All right.
Okay, a couple.
Yeah, yeah. I like it, Gil. Thank you. All right, somebody else have one? Anybody?
What about who's in my tribe that believes in unicorns?
Where's my make my... I'm just gonna raise my hand because I can't find my button when I'm presenting.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna say for my daughter.
Yep.
Okay, I'll take it.
It's okay, Gil. It's for your daughter. Wink, wink.
Right.
Wink, wink. It's okay.
She was just here. I'm like, I can't talk now. Should have called her back for that.
All right, anybody else? Okay. I'm gonna count. I'm gonna give it the 1, 2, 3 backwards. 3, 2, 1. Okay. So if you unmuted, I'm gonna go ahead and ask you to mute yourselves real quick, just so Mark has an opportunity to run the show for a little bit. Mark, I'm going to real briefly talk about tonight. So, Mark, I try to do a little bit more than just read the stuff we put on Meetup. Mark's done a lot. Director of product management, did some awesome stuff. He's a great CST. He's a great coach. Went to UVA, which I try not to hold against him.
Yeah, don't hold that against me.
Because you went to William & Mary. Go Tribe. I will say that the first time I met Mark face to face, it was one of my favorite things. Is Mark kind of looked at me for a second, introduced each other. He's like, I'm pretty sure my wife went to school with you. Because his wife Ann and I went to school together in middle of nowhere, Amherst County. My mom taught his wife Spanish for 4 years. And so on top of everything else, in this world of Agile and everything else, Mark was kind of to remind me that this is a really small world and we are super connected. And when it's been really hard to stay connected during all this, I really appreciate that reminder that the world's a lot smaller than we think it is. So, Mark, thank you for joining us. I look forward. I'm really excited to see what's going on here. I will hush up now, mute myself, and turn on my video and cede the floor to you, sir.
All right. I'm going to grab the screen share from me if that's okay.
It's all yours.
All right. So, whoops. First off, I just want to say thanks to Agile Richmond, Braz, and Brooke specifically for inviting me to do this talk. It was initially supposed to be, it says March 2020. I left it on there because that's when it was designed. It was designed for the Innovate. Obviously that didn't happen. So really appreciative to get the opportunity to talk about this because it's something I'm pretty passionate about, this idea of mixed agile artists. I'll unpack that over the course of the talk. a little bit about my background and hard yards really quickly. So as Brad said, I worked at Capital One for quite a while, actually 17 years, and got the opportunity to move around and do a bunch of different things there. Started off in software development, moved around in the IT value chain and did just about everything you can imagine, from writing code to testing code to architecture, systems analysis. And ultimately in about 2005, my boss at the time said, "Hey, do you want to go be a Scrum Master?" Which, if we're being honest with ourselves, Scrum Master is still a strange term. But in 2005, it was really strange because Agile wasn't really a thing and Scrum wasn't very well known. But I said, sure, why not? And really, ever since being part of my first Agile project and using Scrum for the first time, I really haven't looked back. In some way, it's been part of how I do work and part of what I do every day. And then about halfway through, I switched from the IT side to the business side and got really involved in product management. So I've seen, like there's a little bit of, as you guys probably know, sometimes some us versus them, business versus IT. I've sat in both chairs. That was a really good learning experience for me. In terms of, and I've been a CST since 2006, which I don't know if you guys, how much you know about the history of the Scrum Alliance, but there weren't a whole lot of us in 2006. Like, we all fit in a very small room in 2006. So I've seen a lot of growth in the community at large over that time as well. At Hard Yards, we are a product development consulting company. So what does that mean? It means we look at practices or take practices from design thinking, agile, analytics. We mix them up in unique ways through training, coaching, consulting to help organizations deliver products that win. We work in both the commercial context and in the federal context. One of the things that drew me to Hard Yards in the first place was getting to work on national security problems. And we've had the opportunity to do that since we've been in business. And that's been a real pleasure and a real interesting set of experiences. And so the reason that's relevant for this talk is we've had to stretch our mixed agile artistry even further when you start talking about working in different types of environments with the constraints of government and all those sorts of things. So, all right, I'll jump into the talk now. So I'm going to cover a few things. One, I'm going to give you a quick background on the UFC and how it progressed, so say from the mid 90s, really through sort of the modern era where you could pretty much turn on the television if you have cable and find mixed martial arts match pretty much any time of day. There might even be a channel dedicated to it. I don't know. And then I'm going to draw parallels between what those athletes learned from the beginning of the UFC until now, and how the Agile community maybe has learned from that, or maybe we still have some things to learn. So that's the question we'll wrestle with. And then we're going to do an interactive exercise where you all will have the opportunity to practice mixed agile arts on the fly with a small group of people. All right, so this first part of the talk requires a little bit of interaction. So if you want to unmute and jump in, I believe this is a shot from the first UFC, or if it's not the first one, it's one of the first couple. When they first got started, Ultimate Fighting Championships, the whole purpose behind it was they brought people in who specialized in one discipline. You were a karate guy or a kung fu guy or a sumo guy or whatever it was, and they wanted to match different martial arts against each other, basically to say which one was the best. Okay. So if you had to guess, for those of you, if you've watched the early FCs, you may know. If not, you may not know. Who do you think won between these two guys? Who do you think won the fight?
I'm gonna be bold and say the big dude, Mark.
That's what I was going to say too.
He got his butt
Was it a
whooped.
tricky question?
He got his butt whooped.
Yeah.
Yeah, by this other guy, because he was really skilled in striking and a lot faster, and so basically wore this guy out really quickly, and he ended up losing the match. So given that, you're like, well, this guy in the black tights beat the really big guy. Do you think the guy in the black tights won everything? Do you think he won the whole tournament?
Negative.
Negative. Why? Who won the tournament?
Hoist Gracie.
Hoist Gracie. Who the heck is Hoist Gracie, right? No one knew this guy. No one knew his art. Brazilian.
No. I saw that movie. That was called The Karate Kid.
No one, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, no one had heard of it in 93 or 94. I mean, if you were in Brazil, obviously you heard of it. But in the US, it was almost unheard of, right? So this guy who is, as you can see, like not that big, probably not that strong. I will tell you, not that athletic, comes in his gi that doesn't fit. That's the outfit that he's wearing, and chokes people out, arm locks them, and wins the tournament. And not just the first UFC, but the first 2 UFCs. So now people's minds are blown, right? Like, wait a minute. Well, we've answered the question, right? The best martial art is clearly Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? Wrong. So this guy's name is, anybody know who this is?
It looks like Jack from
He can't spell or speak very well, but his ring name, Tank Abbott. Tank Abbott. I'm not sure he had a discipline. He was just a brawler and sort of a crazed lunatic. And so he won a few fights. They started to realize that it turns out like weight classes might be a good idea. So you probably ought not put a 280-pound huge guy like this in with a 140-pound guy. Probably not a good idea. But he didn't win consistently. He won a couple, and a couple other guys won a few. So now people are starting to realize, hey, wait a second, like it's not just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like there's more to this ultimate fighting thing than just one art, because it's not the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy that's winning all the time. So anybody know who these two guys are? UFC fans. You can't even see their faces, so you got to be a real fan to know who this is just from the side and back.
Oh, Chuck Liddell.
Chuck Liddell in the blue, and a guy named Randy Couture, one of my mixed martial arts heroes, in the red. So why? Because he was like won a UFC title at 43, which is how old I am. So these two guys, I think this fight in particular changed the course of mixed martial arts. And I'm going to play a quick video clip. It's real short. I want you to listen. It's not too violent. I mean, we are talking about fighting, so they're punching and kicking. I want you to listen to the commentator, right? Specifically about what's going on. And I'll just to give you a little bit of backdrop. Chuck Liddell was basically a street fighter. But Kenpo karate was his specialty, but he was pretty well-rounded. Randy Couture was a really, really good wrestler. So that was their sort of core discipline. But okay, I'm going to play this now. I want you to listen to the commentator.
Another connection.
Oh,
and
big right hand by Randy.
Randy taking it to Chuck Liddell.
Randy Couture is winning the stand-up battle. This is incredible. With disciplined punches. He's staying tight. He goes for a knee, dirty boxing. He's got the clinch. Wow, Chuck is looking to try to take Randy down now.
You know what? Nothing about Randy Couture surprises me. I have to say that. Nothing.
Okay, so what do you notice? What did you notice in the commentary?
Connection and disciplined punching.
Yeah.
Rutherford.
What they were surprised about was, here's this guy Randy Couture, who comes in and is striking stand up with one of the guys who's supposedly an expert in striking, right, and beating him at that game, even though his discipline is wrestling, is grappling, like not even punching. And then at the very end, Chuck Liddell, who's supposedly like a stand-up guy, starts trying to wrestle Randy. So these two guys really set the stage for changing the face. I think, I might be exaggerating, changing the face of mixed martial arts, where everybody says, hold on a second, like, you can be really good at one thing, but if you want to win and you want to compete at a really high level, you've got to understand all of it. You can't leave any stone unturned, right? So at this point, guys are training wrestling, they're training Muay Thai, they're training boxing, they're doing Tai Chi, they're doing Kung Fu. Like, they learn as much as they can so that when they step into the ring, they can bring all of those tools, because depending on the guy that you're competing against, depending on the problem, remember this phrase, depending on the problem that you have to solve, you may need a huge set of tools in order to go and tackle that problem. So then, anybody know who this guy is?
Anderson Silva.
Yes. What do you know about him?
Brazilian, but specializing more in striking than just jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, so the guy was a decorated Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, which we said early on people thought was the end-all be-all of martial arts, right? But this guy comes in and knocks people out, almost never uses jiu-jitsu. So to me, he just represents this, like, you can be good at one thing, you can be an expert in one thing, but you better be good at everything, or at least functional at everything if you want to compete. So we hit mainstream now, right? Like, UFC has gone from the early days were sort of a cult following. I remember we handed around VHS tapes in high school, like they were like illegal. Like, oh, have you seen this stuff? Like, and it was a real cult following, and people thought you were a devil worshiper or whatever it was. It was really sort of, you were sort of weird if you knew what the UFC was in the early days. Well, here we are today, right? We've got super fit athletes that are unbelievably well trained. We got this guy Conor McGregor, who's a world champion, on the cover of GQ. Women are fighting. People are transitioning out of fighting into acting. Like, it's hard. And as I said earlier, you can find a mixed martial arts match on television just about any time of day or night. It's really become mainstream now. Now they've added rules, they've added weight classes, but also what it means to be a mixed martial artist has changed dramatically in, I would say, a relatively short period of time. All right, so let's shift gears completely. Anybody know who these two guys are? You're kidding me.
Jeff Sutherland. Jeff Sutherland, right?
Yeah, Jeff Sutherland and
can't remember the second person's name.
Schwaber.
Yes,
Schwaber.
Yes, these are two. Jeff was one of the signatories of the Agile Manifesto, and they co-authored and have since very recently, by the way, if you didn't know this, in 2020, just re-edited the Scrum Guide. So Scrum is changing, Scrum is evolving. That's your homework. If you haven't read the 2020 Scrum Guide, you need to do it. Early 90s, right? Same time frame as UFC. Easel, which is where Jeff Sutherland worked, he starts using Scrum-like things to get work done in a better way. And anybody ever heard of, like, maybe my fellow Agile nerds will know, but be honest with yourselves. Have you ever heard of OOPSLA?
No.
No, probably. Yeah, most people haven't, right? OOPSLA was like it was a nerdy conference for nerds, right? And it was the first place that they unveiled Scrum. And it sort of got a cult following, right? People were practicing it in dark corners of organizations, not really talking about it. Nobody really knew what it was. If you were doing it and you called it Scrum, I mean, like, try and imagine that, right? 95, 96. You say, what are you doing? We're doing Scrum. Sounds pretty weird, right? But it happened, and it turned out that it was pretty effective. So it was a good thing, right? We start to get more people involved in the mix, though, right? It's not just Scrum. We're now adding in guys like Alistair Coburn, and who else do you guys know that were signatories of the Agile Manifesto? So Alistair, Jeff Sutherland, who else?
Ken Beck.
Kent Beck, yes. What was Kent's specialty?
XD.
XP, that's right.
XP, excuse me, yeah.
XP, Extreme Programming. Jim Highsmith. Anybody got another one?
Ron Jeffries.
Ron Jeffries, also an XP guy, right?
Mm-hmm. And just a grumpy old man. But
yeah, still is.
Martin Fowler.
I'm sorry, who's that?
Martin Fowler, Schwaber, they were also.
Yep, Martin Fowler, Schwaber. So these guys all were doing similar things, but doing them slightly differently. But came together to create this Agile Manifesto that we all sort of know and hopefully love at this point. It grows, right? And it's Agile changes, and I'm fast forwarding many, many years now, right? From 2001 to, I don't know when Spotify came out with Tribes and Squads. If you guys know that circa date, let me know. But it's really started to mainstream now. Organizations are adopting Agile. They're adopting specifically Scrum and many other things en masse. And it continues to happen today, right? So we have gone sort of mainstream, right? Like there's events like this, there's huge conference. When I went to my first Agile conference, there was like 200 people there. That was it. Now there's, I don't know, what was the last time they got together? It was probably like 3,000. Anybody know that number? Attendees at the last Agile conference?
The last one that I remember in person, the big one, I was more than 3,000.
Yeah, so it's probably approaching 5,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've clearly gone big, and we've got all of these brands of Agile to come along with it. So we've got, we've got the Scrum Alliance and Scrum. We've got Kanban. We've got IC Agile that is a blend of lots of different practices. We've got Scrum.org. What's the difference between Scrum.org and Scrum Alliance? Good question. PMI has shifted into, hey, we don't just do old school project management. We also do this Agile stuff. And then we're scaling, right? We've got less large scale Scrum and SAFe, Scaled Agile Framework. I probably said that, there's a real fight there, less versus SAFe, right? We could let those two step into the ring and see who wins. So just more evidence that we've gone mainstream. The question is, have we really learned anything about mixed agile arts? So I just pulled a couple of these visuals down, and they're still relatively recent, but there's all this talk about, well, should we do Agile or should we do DevOps? Should we do Agile versus Waterfall? Is Agile dead? Which Agile methodology is right? Kanban versus, the list goes on, right? I feel like we're still competing to try and see who has the best method. And we're missing an opportunity to ask a different question, which is maybe what we need to do is think about how we can mix practices together depending on the problem that we're trying to solve, and not worry so much about, like, some of you have probably said, assessed, or heard the phrase, well, we're kind of doing Scrum, where people are saying it as an apology. every time I hear it, I'm like, well, don't apologize. Like, is it working? Like, if you're doing something that's not worth it working, maybe that's worth an apology. But if you're kind of doing Scrum and it's mostly working, who cares, right? If you've got a set of practices that work for you and are adding value, they work. So let's not let labels and perfection and ideology of which method makes the most sense get in the way of picking the right practices to solve the right problem. I may have just offended someone right now. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to play Mixed Agile Artists right now. We're going to do that with an exercise. I'm going to put people in breakout groups, and I'm going to give you like 10 minutes or so. And here is your assignment in your groups. So as I mentioned, problems to solve, we can think about problems in, I'm just going to put these in 3 domains. This is not an exhaustive list. These are examples. We have people challenges. Maybe it's about building a stronger team. Maybe it's about learning and experimentation. Maybe it's about changing our mindset away from fixed to one of growth. Maybe it's getting people to think more about outcome versus output. We might have process challenges. Things take too long. Long cycle times, long lead times. We have too many defects. We're doing too much rework. We just don't have enough transparency into the process. Those could all be process-related challenges. This is one of my favorite pictures, Colgate beef lasagna. I can't believe that was a thing. We might have product challenges, right? We're not innovative enough. We have too many competing priorities. We don't have a vision. And then there may be business metrics like CSAT, customer churn, all those sorts of things could be problems. So I want you to think about the adversary as the challenges that we are tackling within each of these domains: people, process, product. And what we have to solve those problems is a set of practices. Now, again, not an exhaustive list. And I've mixed these up. The color coding means something, but I'll let you guys figure that out. So we've got everything from daily scrums to value stream mapping to paired programming to visualizing the process. We've got lots of different things we could mix together here. And I've made space for each of you. If there's a practice here that you don't see and that you really like, create it, write it down, put it in one of these great Post-it notes and mix it. And then your team has to come up with a set of practices. So every group will have their own space, and you'll know what group you're in when I move you to breakout rooms. You have your own space to grab however many practices you want. And I want you to put them in. Are you solving a people challenge, a process challenge, or a product challenge with that practice? And don't worry about, maybe it's both, just pick one. It's okay. We're not looking for perfection here, but put together a set of, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 10 practices, and then name your method. You have to come up with a name for it. Scrum, Kanban, fall, whatever. I don't care. Like, come up with a name. So mix together a set of practices and then name the thing that you created. Questions on the exercise? All right, I am putting in the chat a link to this mural board. And
one step ahead of you, brother.
What's that?
I'm one step ahead of you.
Oh, you already got it? Oh,
of course.
Man, you're all over it. There you go. So I'm about to hit the button to send you off into rooms here. Hopefully I don't screw that up. I've done it quite a few times. Breakout rooms. Let's see. We'll put 5 people per room. All right, there we go. So we got four, there'll be 4 groups. You'll know what group you're in when you get moved to your group, and go to that space on the board. I've strategically placed people there that might be able to help you operate the board if you're brand new to using this tool. All right. You have 10 minutes. Bang. You all just experienced what I believe to be the greatest invention ever, which is the ability to pull people back, whether they like it or not, from breakout rooms. You know, as a longtime CST, you could stand in the room going, folks, hello. You could ring bells, or you could ring chimes, you could do a dance, and people would still ignore you. But darn it, with Zoom breakout rooms, at the end of the timer, you're all back, whether you want to be or not. I mean, you can close Zoom and, you know, mute your phone, but you can't go anywhere. Okay, so I want to hear, actually, let's take a look at some of these creations. So group 1 used just about all the cards, didn't create any new ones. We call this Big Room Empathy Scrumospectives for the Enterprise, Con Blast in Cherry or Lime, and Wardley's Storytime. All sound like fantastic names for your creation. The Alboe Method. They were more judicious with cards. Oh, and they created one. What one did you guys create? A Kanban board. Great. All right. Love it. Love it. What does the Alboe Method mean? Unpack that for me.
A little bit of everything.
Ah, got it. Makes sense. A little bit of everything. Group 3. Ooh, created quite a few new things. Team building, leadership, psych safety, Six Sigma black belt. Wow, that's in the Wayback Machine. The dreaded or dearly loved PI planning, depending on which camp you want to sit in. Product vision, strategery. That's a practice. I think you guys may be stretching a little bit there. What do we call this thing? Stone soup. Stone soup. And then we had one more, right? Team 4. On the line, because they put all these things on the line. They couldn't pick which category it went in. Oh, and did you guys uncover the magic color coding? Who figured that out?
I think we kind of all did as a group.
It was a team effort. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark, we tried to decode the colors when you gave us 2 more minutes. We had just finished, and then we decided, let's try to figure out what the colors are.
Yeah. So I took, again, a non-exhaustive list of things that fell into Scrum, Kanban, XP, design thinking. You could call it product vision. I sort of think of it as like just business management practices, like value stream mapping and OKRs were a thing well before Agile was a thing, right? But product vision is fine too. So good work. What's your insight from this exercise? And anything?
There's just not one thing that fits for everything. I mean, you've got, like you've said in your talk, I think it's, you got to figure out like what's the business problem you're trying to solve and figure out what the best thing is to use, or the best mix of things to use.
And would you is it a good idea or a bad idea to say, well, we should just use everything? What do you think about that?
I don't know that I would say just use everything. I think to me it goes back to what problem are you trying to solve? And so like when you figure that out, then you can figure out which one of those things or which combination of those things, even if it's all of them, to use.
Mm-hmm. So it could be all of them at some point, right? One of the things that we coach people to do is even if we think the endpoint is all of the above, don't start like that. Like,
Yeah.
start with some and then get good at those and then add things in and then take things away if it doesn't make sense, right? Don't try and do it all at once.
Not get into that analysis paralysis and not do anything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark, at the risk of starting a flame war, it feels, again, a little bit like the middle part of the development of SAFe, where they went from, we need to add some stuff to Scrum so that we can get teams talking together, to we're going to throw everything at it and hope it figures out how to fix it when we head it off to our trainers and implementers. To now we've started to figure out what problems we're actually trying to solve, and doing a much better job of leaning out some of their thoughts around these activities and these practices are for these problems, and getting much more intentional about what they're trying to do with it. So I like this a lot.
Absolutely. And I'll share a personal story as it relates to SAFe, right? So I've already shared, I'm a CST, Certified Scrum Trainer. So I'm steeped in Scrum, right? I go to my first PI planning meeting at Capital One. I don't really understand SAFe at all. Never went to a training class. They're like, oh, you're the product manager, so you need to go to this PI planning thing. So I do, obviously. And within like 5 minutes, maybe 10, I'm like, they just put a bullet in Agile's forehead. Like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. I cannot believe we're doing this. And then by the end of the first PI planning session, I was like, oh, hold on a second. I get it. Right? Because what I observed was teams sitting in the room together, talking to each other about their interdependencies, and we were able to make decisions to like reorganize people's priorities in minutes that, had we not done that, would have taken us months or maybe never figured it out, right? So I'm like, oh, there's something to this. So it's not like, people like SAFe gets a bad rap, and I tell people, like, I worked in a SAFe shop, and if you do it smartly, it can work. If you take it all as like one giant thing, we must do everything all at once everywhere, you're probably going to get crushed under the weight of that. Just been my experience, right? So don't throw it all out, but don't take it all in at once. I just want to share one more visual with you. Sorry, I shouldn't have stopped sharing there. Just to give you a sense of where I'm coming from with my Mixed Agile Arts and why I know anything about it. So this is a picture of me getting my black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I got like super into Jiu-Jitsu and just really fell in love with the art. I also was training Muay Thai because like I watched the UFC. I'm like, oh, I got to learn all this stuff. And then life hit me in the face and was like, no, you actually have a family and you got to go to work and you got to do other stuff. So I'm like, well, if I could pick one thing to do, I'm going to pick Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because I loved it. And the reason I put this picture in is the guy standing next to me, who was given his black belt by Carlson Gracie. So if you know Jiu-Jitsu lineage, like, he is one of the most experienced guys in the country. He is 63 and will whoop my butt. He is tough as nails and super fit and like has the energy of an 18-year-old, and he credits it to doing jiu-jitsu his entire life. So it's a lifelong pursuit of mine. I have chosen to specialize in one martial art because I don't like being punched in the face, right? But I'm also smart enough to know that I will never enter an ultimate fighting cage match because there's so many things I don't know. So I think there's a space for specialization, right? If you want to be a specialist, that's okay. Like, and if you just want to do your thing, if you just want to do Scrum, where you're super passionate about Kanban, or you just want to do design thinking, there's a space for that, right? So it's not that we all have to get this broad base, but I think you know, the moral of the story is, depending on the complexity of the problems that you're trying to solve, your specialty may not get you there, right? You may not be able to solve the problems. And if all you do is keep going into your tool bag of, well, I know this really well, you could hit a brick wall, right? You know, whether you're an agile coach and you're working with a client, or you're internal to an organization, I just want, you know, I want you guys to think about, what else could you go out and learn that you don't know right now that might uncover some options for you to solve tough problems that you can't solve today, right? So the homework from this is, go find some set of practices that you don't fully understand or aren't as expert in, and study them and see what you can do to bring that into the work that you do. And do jujitsu, because it's awesome. So that's it. I'm happy to open the floor and make this an open conversation, take questions.
That's awesome.
Talk about awesome UFC fights, like wherever you guys want to go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Awesome.
I love
Thanks,
the
Mark.
concept, Mark. Totally agree.
You didn't make us fight though.
The jiu-jitsu match or the cage for MMA, bring the right skill set with you, or help.
I didn't make you fight, Thermala. I haven't figured out a way to do that virtually.
Exactly. Virtually, right? Virtual fighting. Thank you. That was good. Yeah.
Any questions from Jim? You got your hand up. Is that a question?
Yeah, it's a question. So I wanted to know, Mark, two-part question. One, is that dojo in Richmond? And if so, which one is it? I'm curious. And also, what do you do now to keep your edge with COVID and all, right? Because jiu-jitsu is very close in, right?
Yeah, great question. Whatever the opposite of social distancing is jiu-jitsu, right? So this is the sad part of the story, is I have been training for 15 years, but haven't trained now coming up on a year. And it's like a part of me is missing. No, it's not exaggerating for me to say that, right? It's literally like part of who I am. Right. So that's hard. The dojo is Revolution BJJ in Richmond. And it's amazing. I couldn't recommend them more highly. They're super professional, just a really, really great culture. So if you're going to try it or recommend someone else try it, I give them a shot, because it's a really great place. They kids classes, women's classes, adults of all ages. Like it's really approachable, and can't say better, more good things about them.
Very cool. Thank you.
What I do now, I punish myself on the Peloton. That's what I do.
Any other questions for Mark?
Let me, what does it take to become a CST?
Ooh, yeah.
Like whatever, all those kind of, that's often curious for Agile experts. Anything you want to ask is fair game.
That is a great question, Mark. What does it take to become a CST? I think that's a great question.
You've heard of Act of Congress? It's like one step below that. No, I'm kidding.
I think there's naming rights to children, aren't there?
It's pretty difficult.
No, it is and it isn't, right? Here's what I will tell you, is that I'm not aware of anyone who really wants to do it who hasn't achieved it, right? So the biggest thing I can say is be persistent. Don't give up, because there is no like permanent disqualification from the process. If you want it, you can get it, right? But what does it take? So you got to have your base level certifications, your CSM, CSPO, that sort of thing. Then now they've layered in, now you got to get your advanced CSM. Then you have to be a SM or PO C certified Scrum practitioner. Like you can go down one of those two tracks. And then there's what they call guide level certifications. And that's where the CST kicks in. And really what they are looking for is like, you not only know it, but you've practiced it. And when you talk about teaching, you can communicate it effectively And they, I'd say the Scrum Alliance probably does the best job of all these certification bodies of the quality of the trainer, right? There are lots of really good CSTs because they put so much rigor into the process. It's Braz, I don't know exactly what level you are, but I know you're on the ladder. So what are your thoughts on it?
I like the idea of the Act of Congress, but I think the thing that shows up for me the most is what you said around anybody who wants it can get it. And I think that's really key is everyone that I've worked, I'm just about ready to finish putting the submit button on my CEC application, which is the enterprise coach, not trainer. And every step along the way, everyone wants you to succeed. They want you to join the community. They want you to be able to demonstrate. They want to help. And so if this is something you want, there's a fantastic community of people who want you to be part of their community because you make them better too. So, and Mark, all the CSTs I've talked to as well, both full-time and candidates, the CST and the CEC programs are almost identical in their willingness and desire to expand the community, to bring in new fresh faces and voices and make us all better.
Yeah, the only people I know who have failed are ones who quit trying.
Yeah, that is, they realize it's not for them. Yes.
And there can be lots of reasons, good or otherwise, for stopping. Like you disagree philosophically with the Scrum Alliance. That has happened. You think it is a lack of a better term, a good old boys network where you're like, you got to know somebody to get your CST, right? Somebody gave you some harsh feedback that you didn't like. Like all of those things have been reasons why people quit, but they quit. They weren't told no permanently. They just stopped trying.
Yep.
Sorry, that's harsh. Somebody who took that route would probably talk ill of me, but that's my point of view.
No, it's a great point of view. And there are lots of reasons to stop doing it. I thought I was on the CST path for a number of years and realized my heart's in coaching. So that's a reason I stopped pursuing my CST and made the hard shift to be a CEC. So
I'm glad you shared that because that wasn't on my list, but that is a perfectly good reason. I mean, don't take this the wrong way. You still quit, but you quit for the right reasons.
Right. Absolutely. No, not taken the wrong way at all. I did. I decided to stop. So I do not want to be a full-time trainer. And I have deep and admiring respect for those of you who do. My heart's in coaching. It's what drives me every day.
Jim raised his hand again. You want me to demonstrate an arm bar? Is that where we're going next, Jim?
Yeah, across the screen.
You're doing plank.
Across the screen to Braz. Get him in a headlock. No, actually, I had a legit question along the lines of your talk. We all know that, different martial arts have their strengths and weaknesses, right? And so I'm curious, and I'm just now into a project where I'm getting exposure to SAFe and Scaled Agile. And it's quite interesting that to see it firsthand. And, I think you touched on some of the strengths. I'm just curious, do you see any sort of weaknesses with Scaled Agile, or maybe even any strengths and weaknesses across these different systems that you would highlight?
Totally. And I could probably go another hour just like
have you back in April.
Because I think about this stuff all the time, but just as an example, right? Like how I would characterize SAFe's weaknesses is they don't make enough room for people to implement parts of it instead of all of it. But I give you one example. So lean portfolio management, really popular topic right now, right? Like how you make strategic decisions, sort of top of the house. It's a great idea. It has a lot of merit in like how they're describing how to do portfolio management. The problem with it is it's predicated on having defined value streams. That has been the biggest stumbling block that I've seen organizations go through is no one can agree on the value streams because the real value stream cuts across organizational boundaries and starts mixing with people's rice bowls, and leaders don't like it. So they get tripped up trying to define value streams, and it gets really hard to actually do lean portfolio management if you don't do that first. Just as an example. So it's not wrong, but there's a big stumbling block on the way to get there.
Can I add something to what you just said, Mark?
Sure, please.
My yes and to that, and again, I'm not a CST. I actually have my SPC. I did, whether you call that know your enemy or be able to make it into certain clients is a whole nother thing altogether. A large part of the problem I've seen with SAFe isn't with SAFe. SAFe's a framework. It's a collection of things that are best practices and ideas and good stuff to help solve specific problems. The problem with SAFe gets to be people who try to implement it and they're too rigid, and organizations that are too rigid, and trainers who are too rigid to be able to be as flexible. Here's your callback, Mr. Pushinsky, to be as flexible as you need to be to solve the problem at hand with the tools you have.
Yep.
So,
well, and isn't part of it, there's you got to have a willingness to sort of realign to get to those value streams. Like if you're aligned incorrectly, then you're never gonna, that lean portfolio management or value stream map it's gonna always be a challenge for you.
It will, but I think to Mark's point, predicating that you must do A before you can do B, that rigidity prevents you from getting some benefit that you could get from doing lean portfolio management without getting fully aligned value streams and changing the whole organization. There's still benefit there.
Yeah, and let me take some shots at Scrum just so just to be fair, right? And we had massive debates on this internally at Hard Yards. So just to let you know, we don't all agree on this point. The whole idea of an increment being the focus at the end of the sprint, right? Like the increment is a thing that has a definition of done and is potentially shippable and you can demonstrate to people. I fundamentally disagree with, because I believe the outcome of a sprint could be learning, and that is perfectly fine. And I've had CSTs tell me you're crazy for saying that, right? But I think this drive to have shippable code every sprint ignores some really interesting problems around design thinking and making sure you're building the right thing, not just building the thing fast. So there you go. Like we got it's got to be even playing field. Oh, Braz, you agree with that?
Unsurprisingly, Mark, I agree with you.
Hey, I'm an SPC. I agree with that. I'm a Scrum. I agree with that. Yeah.
So it's 7:24. Just a quick check-in. Anybody else have any questions for Mark? What brand razor do you use, Mr. Pushinsky?
I am. What is that? The ones that they ship to your house.
Dollar Shave Club.
Dollar Shave Club. Yes, because they're cheap. And they're sharp. And if I've learned one thing about shaving a bald head is you never use a razor blade twice. Never do that.
Nope. And another one is the scalp's a bleeder.
Oh boy, big time.
Hearing nothing, as you guys think of last questions, Mr. Pushinsky, thank you all for taking your time out of your evening. Hopefully you had dinner before, or are getting ready to have dinner, and hopefully it'll be ready soon. I want to just remind everybody, again, we have not just our next meeting, then really it's going to be February 18th, third Thursdays, Agile Richmond Thursdays. Again, our good friend, Mr. Vizos, will be speaking. We also need to make sure that we call out the work that's going on at Scrum RVA next Tuesday, our friends at Agile 757 next Thursday, and then the following Wednesday, February 3rd, with Capital Kanban. And Megan posted in the chat. I also posted it onto our meetup as well. 757's opened up a call for submissions for their monthly meetings. So we're booked up through April. I'm not sure how busy Scrum RVA and Capital Kanban and other folks are looking, but if you're looking for opportunities to speak, And if you're looking for opportunities to start stretching those muscles to get your CST, to start looking at opportunities to speak at larger events like maybe Innovate Virginia, or some of the big national conferences. These local conferences, it's how I got started. It's how a lot of people I know got started. Is taking the opportunity to be able to speak and share what you learn and get out of your comfort zone a little bit. And you're probably thinking to yourself, you know, all the things I want to talk about, I'm willing to bet you somebody's already talked about it. So what they have, but they haven't heard your voice and they haven't heard what you have to say. And that to me is one of the most interesting things.
And that's exactly what I told Braz when I was thinking about speaking was, I don't think I have anything new. And he told me the exact same thing, but they haven't heard it the way you can say it. So we're looking for new and experienced speakers. So don't be shy if you're new. I recommend hooking up with a mentor of some kind that can help you get started. And I guess if you're in desperate need of a mentor, you can contact me. I'm not mentoring anyone at the moment, but yeah. And we desperately need speakers.
Thank you, Megan.
You're welcome.
All right, last call for questions, comments, concerns, hopes, dreams, aspirations, anything else you want to share with Mr. Pushinsky? Hearing nothing. Mark, thank you.
Thanks all.
Great conversation.
Thanks, Mark.
Jason, thank you as well. Thank you all of our friends at Hard Yards. Everybody, have a great evening, and we'll see you next month.